Alright, we have arrived for the Asian Prospects Division. We have 10 new drivers set to take the tracks, in what would essentially be D-tier vehicles. Now it's an updated tier list, so it's an actually kind of like cohesive tier and not whatever the mess that came before was with the previous 2 years. And I actually did spend like multiple hours one night testing laps around Barcelona and like every single applicable Challenge Series car. Like, you know, every car that a driver from the Challenge Series would conceivably drive, and put them into their separate tiers based on lap times and vehicle style. I add vehicle style because there are a couple of cars that were, you know, slower than the rest of their tier and would have fit into the tier below it, but just like don't fit that tier for one reason or another. Be it because there's already an oversaturation of similar cars in the tier, as was the case with the biggest victim of this, the RUF RT12, which would be made... It would be a C-tier car, but it's been put in D-tier because it's marginally faster than the Porsche that's already in C-tier, which I think is the Cayman GT4, but like not the version with the racing stuff on it. It's like the road-going version of it that looks exactly the same, minus the whole racing stripes, or racing liveries. Anyway, we shall begin with the first race at Zandvoort, and this time I will not be talking out of my behind because I actually have written summaries for each of the 10 new drivers. Their upbringing summarized, their personal upbringing summarized, as well as their Challenge Series upbringing summarized, and most of them also include information on what cars they would normally drive. Alright, well, you're here on the starting grid for the first race of the Asian promotional division. It's no longer the divisional prospects, it's the promotional division. Because it just seemed like a better name. If I'm like perfectly honest. Some of these names will make sense later as I get into describing things. Obviously, being the Asian Championship, Natori is the kind of the second sit-in driver along with me. Yeah, so it's Tier D, technically speaking, but the Group A's fit this tier better than the GT4s do in terms of raw lap time. GT4s are kind of stuck somewhere in between, more or less. They're faster than Tier D, but they're obviously not GTE or GT3 cars. Anyway, I would just go race. So, Hiroto Kuragi is the pole sitter, and as I mentioned in the intro, this time I actually have the characters' descriptions and backgrounds written down, so I will actually be able to hold a constant train of thought when describing each driver that is new to the promotional division in this particular series, this particular championship anyway, not this series. I mean, this will likely happen in between each Challenge Series year. I just happened to pick a random vehicle and landed on the one car that was in the process of a pass. Go figure. But yeah, so it's a Tier D, but with a heavier emphasis on the road cars. There's only a couple of Group A's. Those being Amari, Adhira, and myself. That's it. Alright, so... Never mind, I was gonna say as the race is kind of spreading out, but it's doing the precise not that. Precise not that. Good English, me. See, after we get through the first set of corners, this is when I'll start reading off some of the character descriptions. Yeah, now by actually writing them down, I will be more concise and less talking out of my behind. As there's the McLaren 12C going for the lead. Meanwhile, Nitori trying to overtake a GT40 for 4th place. So let's see here. We'll just go down the order. Ganyu Linchi is the first of the two new Chinese drivers. You could probably use a bit of a Chinese injection. Wait a minute. Could probably use a Chinese driver, considering the one that we technically have right now in the Challenge Series is not really available. That would be Jingwei Zhou, who's currently remaining in Hong Kong right now as one of those like activists. So she's over there dealing with all of that. I don't really envy being in that position, I'm not going to lie, but that is her prerogative. Actually, are those protests still even going on? I don't really hear them. I also feel like if I were actually a big YouTuber and I was talking about this regarding a character that's actually virtual and not a real person, I could very easily be cancelled for it. Which one? There we go. These ones. So, anyway, we could definitely use some Chinese drivers here, to say the least. Ganyu Linchi is the first of them. She adores European culture, specifically the UK. She ran in the compact division with a Mini Cooper, won the heavyweights division with an XKR, and here she's running a 12C because she prefers McLaren over the other various British or European companies in general. Well, Nitori took third away from the Lotus, possibly took third away from the 211 here. They're gonna have to fight through the S's, but too much power for the Lotus to contend with, and so Nitori is going to get away with third for now. Yeah, so that one's pretty simple. Hiroto Karagi is a semi-professional drifter. Drifted in S15 Sylvia, and therefore has a large fondness for Nissans. He cannot stand Initial D, which everyone always asks him about being a drifter. It's like, what do you think of this? And he's just like, it's dumb and inaccurate. If you ask me, I think he's the one that's silly, trying to compare a show to the real thing it's based around, but that's none of my business. He advanced through the all-wheel drive and subsequently the Japanese division in his R32, but he doesn't have super high expectations. even with an R35 at his disposal, he doesn't really know if he can hack it with some of the best in the circuit racing division. Or divisions, rather. You know, because he's a drifter, he knows he's really much out of his comfort zone, as Nitori's definitely putting him out of his comfort zone right now, trying to take second away. And she shall. A reminder that is the top 3 in points that advance. And this does not include myself or Nitori. So if Nitori wins the championship, it would just be 2nd, 3rd, and 4th that move on. Because she's obviously already there, she can't advance to something she's already in. Ishir Hunar is obsessed with Lotuses, from old street cars to their old F1 cars. He raced the mid-engine, he raced the MR division in his own personal first-generation Lotus Esprit, but that was totaled after he got ran into by Wayne Hansen. And Ishir is seeking revenge for that, so that is why he decided to move out of his comfort zone and try and advance to the full-on Challenge Series. He was keen to stay in the MR Challenge with his little S1 Esprit for, you know, as long as he would be allowed, pretty much. But then some Yahoo wrecked his car, and now that's no longer an option. Jeremy Scott is a super fan of V8 supercars. His parents even owned a 2000 Ford Falcon XR8 when he was growing up. He has attended 7 Australian Grand Prix in his lifetime, and he progressed through the Australian division in his HSV GTS. Meanwhile, he's under pressure from Fukai Kawashimi, whose name aptly translates to deep sadness. Aptly because, her parents gave her kind of a raw deal here, so she, as a result of such an outlandish name, an outlandish name, she was subject to a lot of bullying when she was younger, and has, in modern day, developed a case of clinical depression. However, it seems as though racing sometimes cheers her up. Sometimes. It's hard to really say, like, it's a definite thing that it does that, because it doesn't always work. She raced in the Japanese division in a Mazda RX-8, but has always wanted to race in a Lambo. Now, she'll get the chance here in the Promotionals. I don't think there's enough time in the race to cover any other drivers, so we're just going to follow Lin Chi as she heads up to the last couple of corners. And take a victory. I would say it's a commanding victory, but actually no, because if there were more laps, Nitori would have caught up. Nitori ran a lap that was almost an entire second faster than Ganyu's fastest. Hiroto Kuragi will hold on to 3rd place. 211 unable to find any way to pass. And while Kawashimi's last name is very similar to Kawashiro, that's not intentional. That just so happens to be that that's how that translates. Josiah Montel took the last point, which therefore means that, the Group A's are not in their element here, and Hira really made a bit of a mistake. It doesn't really matter for me, because I'm not exactly in this for much of anything other than sport, but, you know, she's competing for things, and considering how much slower her vehicle is, I don't think she'll be getting very many things. Move on to Silverstone. Well, son of a gun. So, I managed to fail ending the recording. Basically, for those that aren't aware, the way that recordings on PlayStation works is, well, I start recordings by double tapping the share button on my controller, but I end recordings by using by holding the share button and pressing save video clip, because it's easier to not mess up the input. However, my fat thumbs managed to hit the share button twice, or managed to hold it down and then accidentally bump the share button again before I managed to actually press the square button to save it. So the Silverstone race is completely lost to time. But you can kind of see with the points here. There weren't a ton of overtakes that happened. Nitori climbed from like 9th to 3rd or something like that, or 9th to 4th. Ganyu ran away with it. She started 3rd, and as soon as she got ahead of the Nissan GTR, she drove away and won by like 15 seconds. And to basically sum up the characters that I described during the race, which would be, well, 5th, 8th, 9th, 11th, and last. Natsuba Takane is pretty much the poster child of the phrase, and they said I'd never amount to anything. Yeah, she flunked school right from the outset, but passed her driving test first try. So, with her true calling, in quotes, revealed to her, she saw only right to go into motorsport. Something you don't need a college degree for, thank goodness. Before she was even 17, she was in the Challenge Series running the front-rear division with an S14. She came 3rd in that championship, but considering 1st and 2nd were Gina and Pablo Hernandez, the guy who in his rookie championship won in Tier A last year, I don't really think you can fault her for coming 3rd there. And that was more than enough to allow her to graduate to the Promotionals. Then there is a coaster I'm fiddling around with. Mei Woling is a very simple and straightforward personality. There isn't much of a personality, much of a background that she has really shared yet. All that we know is that she really likes Ferraris. She's Chinese, just like Ganyu. But yeah, she really likes Ferraris. She ran the MR division in a 288 GTO that she inherited from her grandpa. And mind you, that would mean it's the same car that we saw at Nina Narvaez racing in the last tier. Except this one was black. Whether that was painted that color by somebody, or if it came out of the factory in that color, we don't know. But you can't get a black 288 GTO in this game. It only comes in red or yellow. I don't understand why. Unless that is how it is in factory spec, like 30 years ago, in which case then it makes sense. And we have Hoang Pham, currently the only Vietnamese driver who is participating in the Challenge Series in any way, shape, or form. His dad was killed in the Vietnamese War, but the rest of his family had always taught him to not fault the other nations for it, only to fault their leaders. So it's not like he hates America or anything. America didn't go to war, America's leader went to war. Same with the Vietnamese leader. That is how he was taught regarding this war. And mind you, he was only like 4 when this happened. So he is like 50 years old. He's quite old. He raced in the FR division with his dad's Gen 2 Corvette, and hopes to reach the CS completely, or like reach the top of it, and get a chance to drive the modern C7 Corvette and honor the legacy both of that Gen 2 Corvette and his dad who used to own it. And weird wording that he chose, because usually when you think honor legacy, you think like the legacy of something that is no longer alive, like a, you know, like a fallen hero, like, or like a, like, you know, something like an Ayrton Senna or Dale Earnhardt Sr. Their legacy lives on when they don't. But no, that Corvette still runs. They're just not driving it because, well, A, it's not in the Assetto Corsa. You'd have to go to Gran Turismo Sport for that. But no, it still runs. It still operates. So it's not like the legacy is like the Corvette is gone. No, it's still there. He still owns it. He was racing in it not even a year ago. So... but now he's been given an alternative in the form of a GT40. Josiah Montel is a friend of Jeremy Scott's. Josiah is the faster driver, but is also way more aggressive and tends to bump people out of the way a little bit. They won the Australian division that they competed in with Jeremy in a Chevrolet SS. And finally, Amari Adhira, Indian woman and a former WTCR driver, taking this opportunity to drive the Group A car that she always dreamed of driving, the Alpha 155. Her expectations in this series are very high. However, considering she's got one of the two worst cars in the category, mine aren't. I don't think she's the only driver with no points. So I guess it's not impossible to turn it around, but man, it would take a lot. Anyway, now on to Brands Hatch, if I actually saved the clip correctly this time. Alright, we're on the starting grid for Brands Hatch. Spectacularly, this time, it is not foggy. Which is weird because we're still in England. We're in literally the same country, not... only halfway across the relatively small country of the UK. And yet, here it isn't foggy. I guess different day, but still. Anyway, I'm on pole, for what little that actually matters in the grand scheme of things, because I'm not really competing to get into the, I'm already there. Don't need to get in there. And then there's Gainu starting 10th, so I think her winning streak will finally have been brought to a close. Maybe if this were a 10-lap race, but not 5. Well, my pole position is going to be very short-lived, since I've already been out-dragged by Mei Woling, and Nitori is trying to follow, but failed. Josiah with a big send into turn 2. I just heard contact back here. But nobody spun out, so it must not have been very big contact. It just made a really loud noise for no apparent reason. As Nitori gets by pretty easily through there, that's always a difficult passing zone to manage without there being any contact made, so... Although, kinda helps, Montel didn't really put up a fight for it, so... Would've been kinda hard to manage making contact when the opponent you're passing is hardly even attempting to fight you for the spot. Huang Pham is going to pass an R8 and a GT40 with a bit of a send through turn 1. Ganyu is trying to make her way to 8th place, but getting around this Lotus. She will do so. Never mind, Hunar is going to send it back up the inside. Ishir Hunar is in a very interesting spot, because everybody else, the only real stakes for them would be, like, I want to get here and have a career. No, Hunar doesn't, I don't really know if Ishir Hunar really wants to have a Challenge Series career that he makes out of running the top division. No, he just wants revenge on Wayne Hansen for totaling his prize Lotus Esprit last year. He's literally racing through the divisional prospects just to get a chance, or promotional division, I'm done. He's literally racing through the promotionals division just to get a chance to get his revenge on Wayne. So, Nitori, released from the clutches of being stuck behind me, has started to really quickly catch up to the 458 driver ahead. Soon enough, I'll be under pressure from Huang Pham. Jeremy has just overtaken his friend Josiah for 6th place. But Ganyu will have some things to say about him being in 6th place, and will take it away from him. Now, Josiah and Fukai are going too wide, and Fukai is going to win that engagement. Just by way of just flooring it out of the corner exit. Nitori is not quite as close to Wu Ling by this point as I honestly thought she'd be. I mean, she's getting closer, she's going faster, but I expected her to be closing in by like a second a lap. Here's Hoang getting just about into me, but barely avoiding contact. This is not a race the GTR drivers are going to want to remember, as Karagi just about runs Hunar off the racetrack. Ganyu has caught the Great Riker train of 2021. If things stay as they are, neither of the two GTR drivers are going to score. They're both going to be the only car that doesn't score here at Brands Hatch. Although, considering where they started, it's not really that much of a surprise. We have up ahead, I believe that would be, Ahira went off the track. Me and Pham are going too wide through definitely the most unusual corners to be battling through. I almost never see the AI getting racy through these two. And yet, that didn't stop me and Pham from duking it out through those two high-speed turns. Ganyu just about avoids running into me. And now she will get out of here. She might still have time to take a podium away, especially if she gets a good run through here. Not quite good enough to pass. However, this will be a notable race for myself and, more importantly, for Adhira, because this has been decent scoring for us two Group A vehicles. You really thought about that, Amari? You really trying this, Amari? Okay. Well, I guess part of it's my fault for even giving her the opportunity by braking so early. I'm in a 190, not an SLS. I got a lot more cornering than that. Here we are. And Gani will advance to third. She'll get a last-second podium here. And I'm trying to keep Kawashimi behind me. I don't think that's gonna work. No. So here I figured the 155 and myself would be useless, but no. Mei Wo-ling is going to take a victory. Nitori not far away, but unable to seal the deal. Ganyu Linchi will go from 10th to 3rd in just 5 laps time. Ho Wang will take an impressive 4th in a GT40 after starting 6th. Based on the lap times, Hunar definitely had more speed than myself or Jeremy, but was never able to do much with it. So, up through 3 events, Ganyu, Fukai, and Mei would be the 3 that would advance, since Nitori already is there. It's not super close for anybody else. Hiroto is 4th in line, 7 points behind that tie for 2nd amongst the people trying to get in. Meanwhile, me and Amari are tied. As are Takane and Scott's, and then there's also Mei and Fukai that are also tied. So there's a lot of ties just pretty much all over the grid here. We're here on the starting grid for Spa, and wow. It puts one Group A on pole, and it puts me in dead last. And Ganyu is starting 6th. Notably though, both Mei and Fukai start ahead of her, so there's some chance to try and make gains, or at the very least, minimize damage. At least in Fukai's case. I don't think Mei is going to get too far, but... I mean, maybe if the GTR's launch allows Yotsuba to shake things up with the 2 ahead of her. I'm not sure. Right away, Hiroto has already taken the lead away from Adhira by way of 4-wheel drive. Adhira, using the lighter car, will try and get to the inside for the first turn, but I don't think that'll get her super far. That's a GTR. It's a lot more horsepower than you got. Kawashimi is also going to force the issue, and that is very sketchy for a vehicle like the Gallardo to pull off, even though it's pretty much nothing for something like the 155. And yet, Kawashimi is still going to make the pass. Somebody fell really hard here. Oh, it's Hunar. He's already in 8th. He started 4th. Mei Wo-ling is already also overtaken Adhira. Ganyu looking to do that next. Takane was not at all a threat under the start. And now here comes Nitori, trying to take 6th away. Nitori, who started 9th, is about to be up 3 places, and we're only halfway through the lap. Kuragi is definitely doing a bit of pace control. You know, obviously he can go as slow as he wants so long as he can keep second place behind him. It is very close together for pretty much the whole top 5, top 6 arguably, with Nitori getting in the gridlock. There's 2 separate packs. There's the top 6 and then there's the bottom 6. And I am already kind of starting to lose the bottom 6 and just become 12th. If I don't get a move on, which easier said than done. Hunar down to 10th. This track very clearly not suited for the 211 at all. Or maybe it's just not suited to Ishii or Hunar. Who knows? Still has found no way to overtake. Mind you, we're going to have the opportunities present themselves in the next handful of turns on the track, so possibly if that will change. No effort into the first turn. Meanwhile, Nitori will try and take 5th away from Amari, and then also, meanwhile, Hunar defending the last points position from Josiah Montel, which will get him absolutely nowhere. Fukai is all over Hiroto. But does she have the top speed or the bravery to seal the deal? Well, you got the bravery. Now it's about cornering more than top speed, since we've, reached the corners. Big brain moment. And Kawashimi could do nothing. Somebody who could do something, though, was Ganyu, who moved her way to 3rd, getting around Wu Ling into that braking zone, and actually keeping her car on the right side. Starting to get gas pains. I just love that. What kind of line was that, Ganyu? Very weird braking tendencies there. Ganyu has the run of a lifetime on Fukai. Can't do anything though because Hiroto is in the way. I'm gonna go too wide through Blanchimont. This is always scary. Who will come out on top? It's gonna be the 12C, definitively. Very opportunistic move from Mei. Will attempt to go through the bus stop too wide. I think the Gallardo has just enough horsepower to get back ahead, though, before we get to the next braking zone. Does Mei try a desperation move? Does Ganyu try a desperation move? Mei was pretty much there anyway, but nothing. Don't worry, there's still a couple more shots at it. Hiroto is getting very good at using that hairpin to propel himself by the powers of all-wheel drive, propel himself down the straightaway. Although his weight in that GTR is doing him no favors up the hill. They remain too wide through the entirety of that weird chicane, but I think Ganyu is going to be the victor. And now she need only set off to take the money and run, because Kawashimi is still stuck behind Kuragi. So it'll just be down to, you know, at least staying in third, maybe, if you're lucky, at least taking second, because I think Ganyu's about to check out. Jeremy Scott is slowly creeping up on the top 6, having escaped Takane at some point in the recent future. Wang Pham has not managed to do the same, and so he may be stuck in 9th for the rest of the race. Initially, my plan was to record all 8 races in one go. However, I'm continuing to yawn profusely, and I feel as though my commentary will suffer if I continue to do so when I'm very obviously on my way to Sleepyland. So, probably not. Probably wait until I wake up in like 10 hours, because I'm gonna sleep like a kid. I mean, I pretty much always do. So, no reason to wake up until Thursday. And that's also worth mentioning that there will be a brief channel break for, well, I mean, it's not like I haven't taken longer breaks than this, but 4th of July weekend I will not be uploading a goddarn thing because I will not be at my house. I'm actually seeing an actual race for once in my life. I'm watching NASCAR racing at Road America. And Mom and I have agreed to leave early and get the most out of our hotel money by going there on Thursday and not, you know, Saturday when the actual races begin. So, yeah, we'll get to the area on Thursday, but we won't be doing anything at the track until Friday, maybe. Kawashimi is going to try again on the GTR. This failed the first try. Will it succeed the second? No. Unfortunately for her, Mei Wuling does not see an opportunity to try and steal third just there. Certainly left herself exposed to being passed. Speaking of being passed, here comes Nitori sending it into a very unorthodox passing zone, but I mean, if it works. Kuragi is a little bit out of the, and like out and over his head with where he's running. I have a feeling that he's been making quite a long train for some time if Scott's is starting to get back near them after taking at least a lap or two to get around Yotsuba. But he's going literally just fast enough to where Fukai could never find a way around him. Maybe if Fukai would stop lining off on straightaways, he'd have more of a chance. At any rate, letting off beside, heading through the bus stop one more time. The third win in 4 races for Ganyu Lin-Chi. Now she wins at Spa, only losing at Brands Hatch up to this point because she started pretty much dead last. Finally, Kawashimi took it in the final corner, and Kuragi will relegate it to 3rd. Nitori took 4th after starting 9th. And what? I guess Ahira got it out of the last corner, and even though Wuling passed her post-race, the game gave 5th to Amari. How'd that even happen? Also, Fam got ahead of Yotsuba while I was watching Ganyu cross the line. So at the halfway mark, it has certainly gotten a little closer for the final spot. Kuragi has closed in on Mei, and Fukai has broken away from her to put herself definitively second in the running. I was not second in points because Itori is still a wrench in the works there, sitting second in points. Ganyu, though, 20-point lead over her nearest, promotional competitor. In other words, nearest competitor that isn't Nitori. And yeah, when I wake up and manage to record the second half, we will have Monza, the Nürburgring, Barcelona, and end with the Highlands of all tracks, which will be a certainly very interesting finale, I imagine.